know it's the first year of this Reverse event because we haven't put audio on that opening graphic yet. So that will come. But we're very excited to be here for day 2 of the Web3 Comic-Con event Reverse. Very happy to be joined by VGF and economist from the PixelVERSE team. As well as our third co-founder in Macroverse, Ricky, who is able to join today as well. So very excited to have us all together for this conversation. To quickly kick us off, I want to get you guys to just give a little introduction and talk a little bit about the history of PixelVERSE. But I'll say for me, and kind of given the context of this as a Comic-Con event, as an entertainment event, as kind of this intersection of Web3 and entertainment, PixelVERSE showed up on my radar right when you guys were starting to mint PunksComic, and being a lifelong comics fan and geek, I was like, wait a minute, NFTs and comics, like let's find out about this. So starting with that as kind of the place where you guys showed up on the geek radar for me, tell us a little bit more about yourselves and PixelVERSE and kind of how give us a little history lesson here.
For sure. So I'm VGF, happy to be back. I had joined for a panel yesterday as well, but director of marketing at PixelVERSE, been with the team, consulted with the team pre-launch, happy to have joined full-time about mid last year. And I was gonna say I'll toss it over to David, and then we can kind of get into PV and PixelVERSE a little bit.
My name is David, or Economist on Twitter. I'm the director of communications at PixelVERSE. And I guess I first got involved in 2021 just writing freelance about the ecosystem amongst other Web3 projects at the time. And come the end of 2021, I was looking for something a little bit different and to possibly move into the Web3 space full time, and reach out to G-Funk, and there was an opportunity to join. So I officially joined in February of 2022, although I was kind of around for a few weeks beforehand, and it's been a great decision for me.
Awesome. Well, who wants to give us the kind of the history of PixelVERSE, or kind of a little bit of how it started? I know one of the things that's really interesting to me is it's one of the first projects I saw that kind of had the collection of punks that sort of creates the epicenter for the organization, and then kind of how it's all grown from there. I also will say, and there's a couple things that maybe you guys can touch on. When I first went and looked at the project, it's also one of the most complicated ecosystems that I have seen. And for some people, that might be a little bit of a like, whoa, how do I wrap my head around this? But I found myself really fascinated with very early on, you guys really thinking very deeply about, here are all these things that we're working on, here are how all these things connect and play with each other, and kind of a level of depth and thinking around all of that, which I don't think a lot of people had kind of gone to at especially at that point in the space. So maybe you can kind of touch on all of that.
Sure. Vijay, did you want to start with the history, and then we can get into like the game theory and the complexity?
Sure. So PixelVERSE really at its core is an intellectual property company. The first of those IPs was PunksComics. And Eben, as you highlighted, kind of came out of the idea that people were embodying these PFPs and leaning into these almost like personas on Twitter. And G-Funk, Sean, our CEO, had gotten this idea like, well, what if we took these CryptoPunks and characterized them and really brought them to life? And that was kind of like the seed of what became PunksComic issue 1. And the 16 core kind of CryptoPunks that laid that foundation were fractionalized and kind of tied into the game theory of not only are you collecting this issue number 1 collectible, but then it could be, staked or burned and kind of evolved into this little bit of like a meta game. And with that, the introduction of Odious into the ecosystem, pretty soon thereafter, we launched MetaHero, which is our own kind of superhero, supervillain, more native, like internally incubated versus like Punks, where it's a little more of like a reflection of like Web3 and the times. Like Punk's comic number 2 has like a lot of cameos and a lot of inside jokes and a lot of kind of Web3 quips and quirks. And MetaHeroes is much more of like a lore and world building affair. So yeah, it's definitely kind of been a journey of like how each of these ecosystems has evolved and has kind of been not like interwoven, but differentiated to where they're now kind of their own individual ecosystems. Punk's comic will continue to live on under the artful hand of Chris Wall, and MetaHeroes continuing to evolve with some pretty exciting news to share on that front very soon.
Awesome. Like today, very soon, or not quite yet?
not yeah. I was gonna say it's still a working weekend for us, but when we say soon, it's kind of like an inside joke with our community that like when. The answer is always soon, but when we say soon these days, it means soon.
Yeah. Very good. All right, economist, you want to talk to us about the ecosystem and some of the complexity of how this all works?
Yeah, and the complexity of the ecosystem, that's certainly a lot of feedback that we've heard, especially I'd say probably within this past year, it's been like a challenge for new people on board because nobody really knows exactly where to start. And one of the things that we've been working on internally is trying to find ways that we can demystify it for new collectors, for those collectors that bought into Punk's Comic 1 back in May or June of 2021 and have stayed fairly active in the ecosystem. There's a pretty good understanding of kind of how it works. But if you're a new collector today trying to jump in, it's like, well, what do I start with? Do I start with a comic book? Do I start with a MetaHero? Do I start with mint passes? Do I start with what are the ERC20 tokens? And we're really working on ways to clarify that. And one of the ways that we've started that was like we created our own custom marketplace with Rarible that it added another layer to kind of how collectors can kind of sort through all the NFTs that are in our ecosystem, and it breaks it down by category. So now, for example, Punk's Comic 2, which had a standard edition, then 8 individual collectors covers for the individual ape holders that had participated in that project. So instead of trying to find 9 different collections on one of the public marketplaces, through our marketplace, you can click on Punk's Comic 2, and then it opens up a menu that shows like, all right, well, these are all the different versions of Punk's Comic 2 that that you can select. So that's just kind of one of the many ways that we're trying to demystify it and help people understand that we're a media and IP company. We're going to have different properties, and maybe you're a bigger fan of the Web3 humor and the comics that are put out through Punk's Comic and our origin stories, or maybe you're not really into that and you just love superheroes and you love that type of storytelling and helping people find like where they can go for that ecosystem. And as other properties emerge over time, it's about helping people understand that you don't have to choose everything. You can choose as much or as little that you really feel most comfortable engaging within our ecosystem. So it's we're growing up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I think we share some philosophical DNA there, which is that over time, building a bunch of different worlds for people to play in, and however someone finds their way in is the right way for them to find their way in, and then it just kind of gets deeper as you continue to explore and find new things that you connect with. So I think that's awesome. Can one of you talk to us a little bit about MetaHero specifically? So MetaHero is your, kind of, I assume, kind of, do you think of it as kind of like the core IP at the moment, as kind of the franchise, the world that, you're kind of most actively, I won't say like you're not working on other stuff, but like the thing that's the most visible at kind of the core of the company at the moment? Is that how you guys think about it, or is just one of the things?
It certainly is one of the things, but like with PunksComic, it's almost a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
The between the writers, Chris, for PunksComics, as well as the other artists involved with origin stories, it's pretty much like down to a T at this point. But with MetaHeroes, it's almost a consistently iterating and evolving project, and a lot of products being built to help like support that infrastructure and framework. Because like at its core, it is, an intellectual property, but it is a community owned and community governed ecosystem, where ultimately it will be this gaming ecosystem. At its core is the United Planets DAO, the Up DAO. So yesterday during our panel, we touched on this a little bit, but there really wasn't a tool that kind of provided us the route that or the suite of features that we needed to help support that DAO and that ecosystem, especially with kind of this state and federal government kind of system of the individual planet DAOs, each of them their own individual DAOs, feeding up into the Up DAO, which is kind of the high level governing body of the entire ecosystem. And so we had to go make it.
Yeah.
And so having a platform that kind of involves the functionality of snapshot for governance, discourse for discussions, treasury management, and, kind of the repository of information of kind of the more information, the marketplace info, everything all in one place. It was quite a creative and technical lift.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of been a lot of this year has been building out that framework of what we're very excited to share over, the next coming months.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those soon things, which I I love that
that one was coming soon for a hot minute. Yeah. But that one was in the works for a very good while because it was such a massive lift. Like there's a lot of teams don't take on that challenge because it is quite an undertaking. And a massive shout out to our development team, whether it's front end, back end, UI, UX, Solidity. Like these guys are awesome. Like I affectionately refer to them as wizards. Because the stuff that it is incredibly difficult to make something look that easy.
Yeah.
And they consistently perform at such a high level. Like that has been something that Pixel Vault has somewhat become known for, is our minting experience being second to none. Whether it be like smooth UI, UX, clever, mint mechanics, low gas, the Solidity being, super efficient. That really is like the ace up our sleeve of having a development team that is that are rock stars.
Yeah.
And just an immense asset to have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm right. You guys had kind of invented the Mint Pass, right? It's sort of the first, at least iteration of it that kind of people really understood what it was. I think that's very cool.
Well, and that was kind of like one of the problem solving parts of it was, at the time and place that was needed. I think it was last summer when, every single mint was going crazy, turned into a gas war.
Yeah.
We turned to the mint pass as a kind of avenue of, here's this 1155 that, you know, by its very nature is a lower lift on chain, a lower cost to mint, and that could be redeemed at any time when gas was ideally lower.
Yeah.
And burned for an ERC 721.
Yeah.
And we were very glad to see that, you know, in kind of the spirit of Web3 and the open source development and tooling, that it was very well received, and quite a number of other communities leaned into that sort of model and picked it up, and just kind of like a technological development that, in my opinion, kind of benefited the entire space.
Yeah, no doubt. So all right, let's shift a little bit towards the mythology around, like, you know, maybe MetaHeroes in particular. So tell us, you know, give us the pitch for this world. You know, we understand that they're superheroes, but, you know, how is MetaHeroes different other than let's say the community part of it, which of course is a significant differentiator. But what's the kind of world or the universe or the foundation of the story here that I want to, you know, come play in?
David, do you want to jump in there?
Oh, sure. So that is a bit of a difficult question to answer, and it has nothing to do with the fact that, like, we can't answer the question because we don't know how to answer the question, but, you know, more so that, you know, we shared, I guess it was probably end of August, that, you know, there's a reimagination of this world that is ongoing, and a lot of the questions that you just asked will start to be revealed, like, once that has come to fruition. So I can't really leak anything that hasn't been shared yet, but I will point to a few things. So one is, every Friday for the past, I guess it started at the end of August, we've been releasing these planetary DAO posters on the MetaHero Twitter account. And each one of those are in world, like, as far as, like, the messaging in there, it's cryptic, it's fun, it's meant to, you know, inspire some speculation of what exactly is going on. So the best advice I could say is, for now, is to take a look at all those posters that we've released over the last 6 or 7 weeks. And you know, there are still a few more that are coming, and it'll start to open up a little bit of an idea of, like, what's going on. So this past poster from Friday was for Mars, and it highlights teleportation on Mars. So that's just a reveal that we gave, that there will be teleportation in this world. We released Jupiter, I forget who it was, the week before or the week before that, and, you know, it speaks to the Alexandria Research Facility, which we had, you know, shared a few teasers about, probably, I think it was October of 2021 VGF.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been a little while. So it ties back to some of that we shared, we shared back then. So the best I could say right now is take a look at the posters, and that is the like the early look into what we're building. But I can say this, that it is a deep and immersive world, and we're here to tell stories for years. We're not here to tell stories for months. And that is a lot of what's been going on in the background. And, you know, VGF mentioned earlier about, you know, releasing things like Prism for the UpDAO and the marketplace, and some other table stakes of technology that are the technical infrastructure for what we're building. In the background, we've also been building the creative infrastructure so that we can tell stories that make sense and connect with one another, and, you know, to build this immersive world, you know, long term. So, like, I'm extremely excited to share more. I just can't right now.
I maybe provide some color without, you know, trying to give too much away.
Yeah, of course.
But so, like, the introduction to the MetaHeroes was in PunksComic number 3, where the traditional Punks characters kind of had this crossover with their MetaHero kind of likenesses. And the idea being that like in the PunksComic universe, it's almost Family Guy-esque, if you will, where like almost anything goes. It's kind of silly, it's kind of whimsical, it's got kind of like a cheeky sense of humor, and that that crossovers or like some of these kind of preposterous, ridiculous things are well within the realm of possibility. And kind of to David's point of the creative infrastructure going in and being built, the idea for MetaHeroes is that we aspire to tell very grand, cohesive stories, whether it be from the art development, the nuance of what goes out on Twitter, to the actual comics and kind of like on chain as well as off chain storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, there probably could have been a lot more released, in the interim to kind of bridge that gap. But the idea was to give the creative team their time to develop this very cohesive story. And I think that a lot of the kind of payoff will be when people are able to look back in retrospect and find like people are starting to pick up on some pieces, which is like my favorite thing, when people are like, oh, like one example was like, shout out to Zententivist, one of the founders DAO communications committee members. He was the first to kind of shout this out, but the creatures featured in one of the DAO planetary posters was also spotted in the teaser for the background of one of the planets for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's these subtle little like Easter eggs and hints and things like that I think will only make sense in retrospect. But it kind of helps build that credibility and the idea that okay, like this is something that's been in the works, that's been planned, that's been given forethought. And that's really important to us, is that we tell these big stories, these cohesive stories, without just like bulldozing next thing into the next thing until something inevitably breaks. Sorry, my dog's very enthusiastic.
Just in thumbs upping what you're saying, I think. Very cool. Well, I think all right, Economist, I'm throwing you back on stage. So I mean that gives us a sense of the framework. So I think I have to try to ask for one little tiny tidbit that maybe hasn't made it out yet. If you can think of like what would not get you in trouble, but could be fun for people. Maybe it's just a hint of like, have you guys looked at poster number 6? There could be something interesting there.
All right, so I guess I can give one little hint, and I don't think anybody's going to yell at me for this. Is that the posters are slowly but surely telling more and more, and I expect that the last poster is going to be a lot of fun for people. And I know that's a little bit vague, but
the timing of the last poster even is rather apropos.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun things planned, and we've been working really hard the last 6 months or so to like really start planning this out. And I completely get that, especially in our community, it's like, oh, come on, leak us some more leaks, give us some more leaks. And I joke around with them and I say, you don't want leaks, you don't want me to spoil the fun, because it'll be a lot more fun when we release things like within the schedule that we're planning to release them. And then there'll be I think there'll be an aha moment for folks. But like we're looking to embrace storytelling from multiple angles, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. Well, it's good. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that like that's kind of like the interesting challenge from the perspective I think of David and I, and maybe he can echo this sentiment, but like there's the creative storytelling of, you know, the world building, the lore, and then there's the sort of storytelling and the manner in which we present it, the kind of PR marketing side of things, which in many ways is a creative endeavor in its own right. But to me, that's like the interesting kind of metagame of it, is that like not only are you, you know, building these worlds, telling these stories, but the manner in which you present it and engage your audience in that way is kind of another manner of storytelling in itself.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's so much opportunity to look at, you know, all the different ways that you interact with people as part of the same, you know, kind of overall, I don't know, storytelling organism, let's call it. That you know, you can reach people in so many different ways. It's a, you know, it is the blank canvas of your minimalist environment to paint a lot of different of interactions with people, which is great. I love that. Well, I want to make sure before we start to head towards wrapping up, you guys mentioned the game. I know that's something you've been, you know, promoting as well, and kind of, so, you know, I'm sure the story all ties into that, but tell us about the MetaHeroes game and what implications that might have for the larger Pixel Vault ecosystem.
So the first teaser, the first look at the game did go live. I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago now. We had a little bit of a Q&A follow-up with our head of blockchain and gaming, Aaron St. John. And really it's finally coming to the point where we're starting to be able to leak and, you know, not leak per se, but like unveil a little more that's been in development for so long now. And I think that's kind of the interesting challenge, is that we understandably want to build the anticipation and excitement for this for the development of not only this game, but the platform it's being built on. But the kind of push-pull double-edged sword there is not getting too ahead of ourselves and kind of spoiling all of the fun before it's ready. So maintaining this balance of, yes, consistently putting out, you know, some more information, educating our audience and our player base of what it is that they're in for and what they should be excited about, but not spoiling some of the fun surprises that are in store for them.
This tricky balancing act that you have to do. I know it's absolutely. Well, I mean, maybe fundamentally for anyone that doesn't know, I mean, have you said about, you know, kind of, you know, how do you prepare to take advantage of the game? What do you need to play the game? You know, what kind of game is it? Give us some of those.
So at its base, the first blockchain game is an auto brawler, sort of a sub genre of like auto battlers, where it's visually, you know, it's these MetaHero teams that are going to be enabled by their superpowers to just go ham on each other. And but strategically, it is more of like a game about how you leverage the assets that you hold, or that you rent from a pool of assets, enabled by POW, which is the currency of the ecosystem. And it sort of supports not only MetaHeroes and planets and a few more yet to be announced, but you know, leveraging the gear pods, and all facilitated by POW. So it's really targeted to be something that is fun first, you know, because I think so many of these blockchain games that people have become accustomed to and familiar with are really just gamified DeFi.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it's like one of those where parts of the world building and storytelling are incorporated into the game as well, that it feels immersive and fun. But then also, you know, that it does have this balance of like fun with incentives and rewards. So that's the technical challenge for the gaming team is that delicate balancing act and game balancing. But from what we've seen thus far, it's lining up to be something pretty darn cool.
That's awesome. Well, I hope that your Twitter handle and username gets you some special privileges in the development.
Yeah, Video Game Freak. I can't say I'm more of an FPS guy myself, but definitely kind of leaning more towards the strategy games now that I've kind of delved down this rabbit hole a little bit. And just kind of because I recognize that there probably are a good number of people listening that maybe aren't as familiar with, you know, our earlier announcements and things, that like one of the subtle pieces of the puzzle that was unveiled with that AMA and conversation with Aaron after that teaser went out was that this teaser is really just kind of a like, not only is it the first blockchain game, but it's not going to be the only blockchain game, and that the platform being built to support this game is kind of what is most exciting to me, because this title, the Auto Brawler, is really just a way to show what this platform is capable of supporting blockchain native assets in a self-sustaining kind of pinwheel economy. And that it's definitely not the last that you'll see of Pixel Vault's gaming efforts. We've subtly teased the AAA title that our partner has been developing as well. So like there are kind of multiple paths being developed simultaneously. And yeah, so it's an ecosystem in its own right.
Yeah. I think we can describe Pixel Vault as ecosystems within ecosystems within ecosystems that somehow all connect, which I kind of love. That's awesome. Well, I think, you know, I've completely monopolized this conversation. So Adam, Ricky, any questions you guys want to get into, or any places that we want to kind of dive a little deeper into and try to get more secret information out of these guys?
Yeah, I'd love to dive in, just since we're on that topic of the game a little bit, and just, you know, how does that sort of change the DNA of the company when you take on, you know, making a game? In my experience, it's one of the hardest things that you can make, one of the most difficult products. And if you can make a game, you literally can make anything. You can make an airplane.
Ricky, you're getting loud and quiet for me. I don't know if that's true for anybody else.
I'll just talk loud until I fix my mic.
Oh no, sorry. You're underwater.
Now you're quieter.
Yeah.
I think what you were tapping into there is, you know, that taking on the challenge of developing a game is not a small undertaking. It is incredibly difficult. It's immensely labor intensive. Whether it be kind of a smaller indie title all the way up to, you know, AA, AAA caliber games, can take many millions of dollars and, you know, many man hours. And as far as the company kind of DNA goes, we've scaled massively in the last 8 to 10 months to help support the gaming initiative. And, you know, I think at the turn of the year, we were at, you know, something like 12 full-time employees and, you know, a dozen or so contractors, to now we're well into the 60s of full-time employees. A good number of that being purely dedicated towards the game development. And so, yeah, it's kind of like there are niches within niches of, like, the creative and the artistic teams hard and busy at work on, the comic side of things. I as I said, the PunksComic and the origin story is kind of a well-oiled machine now. But for MetaHeroes in particular, there's been a lot of development, and the game has certainly had a lot of that anticipation, hype, and pressure riding on it. So making sure that we put due diligence and effort behind delivering a spectacular experience for holders.
Yeah, and and on that topic, the gaming is going to be a really big part of our ecosystem, for a long time. Yeah. So like the first game that's being developed certainly isn't going to be the last. It's just the start, and we're really excited to share more over the next couple months about what exactly is being built, the framework, how the game economy is going to start to shape out. And one of the things that we committed to is we did a follow-up AMA with Aaron St. John, who's our VP of blockchain gaming and tokenomics. So we'll probably be releasing that later this week. And then we've also committed to just doing monthly updates with him. Well, roughly monthly. You've got like the holidays that are coming up, so like there might be some like a little bit more elongated periods there. But to just keep people up to speed exactly what's going on with the gaming ecosystem as it gets built out, because it's something that we're extremely excited about. And the best way to get our community to be just as excited with us is to like continue to share like iterative details as we're able to share them. So it's definitely going to be a big focus for us long term.
Yeah. Well, and I think for kind of NFTs as a whole, why Pixel Vault is getting into gaming at all. The aspiration is like not just to have like this one game, right? I think gaming as a whole will be an absolutely massive opportunity for onboarding into Web3. To me, that's personally what got me into Web3 and NFTs was VGF, video game freak. Like I've been a gamer all my life. And when I had that click of like, this is a way to sovereignly own digital, potentially in-game assets, that was game on. I was full speed ahead at that point. And so I think that providing an onboarding opportunity into Web3 to where it's the friction is lowered, it's an easier on-ramp for those that just want to jump in and get into a game without necessarily even knowing that it's blockchain enabled or supported via NFTs, is kind of a grander goal. And that having the assets on the back end supported via blockchain, that they can be bought, sold, traded, is one of the perks and value adds of having this ecosystem in Web3 versus having to have a walled garden closed ecosystem supported just via a native marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. Ricky, say something else to see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Nope. Darn. So quiet. This is the stream whisperer. Adam, what about you? You got anything you want to dive into here in the last few minutes?
Yeah, no, I was just intrigued because we talked about it. Yeah. So that's sorry, very echoey. Sorry, me? No, that was weird.
And the voice.
Looking at just keeping. How have you all? Because you seem like you've done a good job of this, but how have you all managed to juggle the need to keep your community kind of engaged and excited, but also that sense of keeping, allowing the creative process time to run its course and keeping your cards relatively close to your chest while still, it's such a juggle. And we talked a bit about, I can't remember now, we had so many conversations, but talking about the kind of impatience in the Web3 space in general. But you all seem to have done a very good job of balancing those things. And I'd be intrigued if you could kind of speak to how you've achieved that.
Yeah, so you
should go deeper, but it sounds like the magic word is soon. That's the one we got right.
Well, but even the soon it's become kind of an inside joke, but we've kind of drawn that back and made a commitment to really only teasing out and announcing things when they're almost imminently ready. We've kind of been around long enough now that we've felt the pros and cons of announcing things too soon, having that anticipation and that hype build up, and then the settlement or the kind of anticlimactic delivery of those things that, like, even though the product may be spectacular, because the community already knew everything about what was coming, it was lackluster. And so at least as far as market response and stuff like that. And so now we're really focusing on the delivery and just continuing to ship cool stuff. And I think that's a clear differentiator for Pixel Vault from a lot of these cutting quote unquote projects in Web3 and NFTs. Is it's not just a project, it is a company. It is supporting multiple IPs, multiple verticals, and that we believe ultimately what will set Pixel Vault apart is that along a long enough time horizon, people will see that PV continues to deliver. And the interesting, you called it a juggling act, the balancing act of kind of maintaining that excitement and passion of the community, while also not spoiling the fun is kind of the challenge that Dave and I have been put up to. And it has been a little bit of an incubation period over the last few months, as we've had some of these big deliverables within our community and within our ecosystem, of like the UpDAO launch, the marketplace launch, but from the outside, that's not necessarily the most exciting things. The next couple of months are really looking towards the development of the IP, telling of stories, and the marketing and assets to help support those things. So I think that those kind of perceptively from the outside in will give a lot of other people interest in why they should care about PunksComic MetaHeroes, the gaming ecosystem. And to me, that's what gets me going, is like, yeah, it's cool, it's fine and good if we can, we do want to keep the holders that are already so passionate about this jazzed and continue to be excited to have and to hold assets of Pixel Vault. But then also, how do we expand that opportunity and get people from outside of our ecosystem just as excited as the people that have been in it?
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that is, like, when you are kind of making a change, and this is something that we communicated to the community probably as early as like late January, early February, is like, to what VGF said, we're not trying to hype everybody up to focus on like short-term like increases and decreases in like general volatility of like how the market views our underlying tokens, but we're looking to build something that's going to be sustainable for the long term. And what that's going to mean is we're going to be quieter. We are going to share information closer to when it's ready. And we're asking you to trust us through this process. And it is not an approach that's for the faint of heart by any means, especially coming off of like where we came from, like late 2021 to like early to mid 2022 with regards to how the market was moving. It's very difficult. So we essentially kind of had to rip the Band-Aid off and say, this is how we're going to approach it. And it was a lot of having conversations with people, both in the Discord or maybe on like smaller groups or even privately, just to kind of help them understand what the vision is. But there was a window where we weren't saying much, because it was kind of how we were pivoting our communications, and there wasn't a lot of the fun teasers that were coming out, and that's a very difficult position to be in for Pixel and really for any project. But I will say this, I've seen a lot of the volatile comments on social media have like really died down, and that's really great for us because now we're able to produce what we're trying to build, and that's just one distraction that we're not focusing on, and frankly the community's not focusing on. And those that have been with us from the beginning or have been with us through this period, they're all getting excited too, and like they feel that electricity that's in the air, that a lot more is coming now, and they find like, all right, well we've been on this on this ride now for a while, and it's it's about to pay off for us from an entertainment value perspective.
Yeah. That feels like the perfect final comment for this conversation. It's about to pay off from a entertainment value perspective. I love it. So, Economist, where should people find you and engage with you across socials or wherever? Where's the best place to track you down?
Yeah, so the best places to track me down are on Twitter at Economist, and I do spend a lot of time in the PixelVERSE Discord answering questions and just chatting it up.
Awesome. And VGF, tell us again where the best place for people to connect with you is.
On Twitter, my handle just down below, VGFREAKXBL on just about all platforms. And similarly, PixelVERSE Discord and especially Founders DAO are my homes away from home. And my DMs are open. Happy to always chat with anybody that has questions or is interested how they can get involved. So whether it be from within the community or outside, always happy to chat.
That's awesome. And final question before we wrap up. So we know there's the ecosystems upon ecosystems, and people can find their way in through all these different doorways. But if someone's just saying like, this sounds awesome, like where should I start? Like, what is your recommendation point for people to kind of just start to get involved with PixelVERSE?
So if there was like a TLDR of how to get involved, it's kind of one of those, like if the Web3 native kind of humor, storytelling, and like kind of the crypto cypherpunk-esque ethos is up your alley, PunksComic and origin stories are probably going to be of interest to you. If you're more of kind of the traditional superhero comic book fan, and or the video games, MetaHeroes and the associated planetary DAOs and min-pass 2s, depending on your kind of price of accessibility. And then definitely kind of excited to share towards the end of the year our other vertical, PixelVERSE Sports, and some of our joint ventures that have been in the works, as we'll have a lot more to share on that side here in the coming months as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to come back and talk about that.
It's kind of like we love to tease, but we appreciate you guys having us on, and I look forward to when we can look back and piece together the pieces that we weren't able to talk about now, but we'll be coming down the road very shortly.
We're just happy to be part of the Easter egg hunt, and and also I gotta say, for people that enjoy the art and craft of an awesome website, the new PixelVERSE website is pretty darn cool. So definitely recommend that as well. But thank you guys again, and sounds like there's lots more PixelVERSE to come. And coming up next on our end, we'll be taking the wrapper off of our own endeavors for what we've been building over the past year. So we're very excited to finally be able to unveil some of that. So
no more teasing.
No more teasing.
No more teasing. No more soon.
There will still be some teasing, but a lot of not teasing anymore. Awesome, you guys. Thanks again so much.
Thanks,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.